I'm Jansen.
And I'm Debbie Jansen.
We are two motormouth mama bears willing to discuss current events honestly and boldly.
We are truth warriors. No lie is too big, no deception too small.
And we are sticking to the truth.
Yes, we are. I tell you what, we are laughing today because it's been quite a day for both of us. But the thing I was thinking about is it's only Wednesday and already we have a huge topic to discuss for this week. I'm afraid the next 2 years are going to be a whirlwind of activity. Aren't you, Julene?
Woo! It might seem that way indeed.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have any slow days because we're going to be busy and we're going to be doing all we can. But President-elect Trump is on a mission, and it seems like he's going to run through his term. Do you agree?
Well, I just heard somewhere that people think he's going to remake America in his first week in office. And so, I live in D.C., so I'm being bombarded by headlines from the Washington, Post and the Wall Street Journal saying, this country is going to change before our eyes with his radical sweeping agenda. I was just talking to one of my dear friends who lives in New York City, and her child and the child's girlfriend were going to go to China for Christmas, but a major university in New York City that they don't go to, but there are students in New York City, said, if you're traveling abroad, you need to be back before January 20th when the president is inaugurated, because we're not sure if you're an international student, you're going to be able to get back into the country.
Oh my goodness.
And so there's a lot of fear mongering going on, because I think some people think life as they know it will be over with on January 20th.
I know, and that fear is out there, but I was thinking he's already planning his first day, and I think that's packed. And I wouldn't be surprised if he rushes through his speech and waves at the crowd and says, "Sorry, guys, I got to go."
Well,
it. Yeah.
I think people forget when it comes to executive orders that when Biden took office 4 years ago, he signed 37 executive orders within the first few days of his administration. That was the most, that was the record number. So for people that are saying Trump wants to, be a dictator and change America, we seem to forget that Biden signed more executive orders in the first couple days than any president, any of his recent modern predecessors. And so, the problem with executive orders is they're kind of like a Band-Aid on a boilerplate, Deb. I mean, they can be overturned when the next guy gets in. And so it's kind of a temporary way to govern. And so, of course, I'm sure Donald Trump is going to put forth a lot of executive orders the first day, probably the first week. But, if you really want something to fundamentally change, it has to go through the process that our founding fathers intended, for the law to be passed through the legislative branch and to be vetted by our representatives in both houses of Congress. But we are going to see a flurry of executive orders for sure. With Trump. We saw it 4 years. We see it every 4 years, but we're seeing it more and more, this radical flip-flopping of policy. Just like Biden, most of his executive orders were to overrule or undo the Trump era policies. And so we'll see that when Trump comes in again.
Well, and it's great that you explain it so logically. I really appreciate that, because it's good to know that. But I'm just sitting here while you're talking, and I'm thinking about, everybody's talked about America being this big ship that needs to be turned around. Well, what do you do when you turn a ship around? You slam on the brakes and you whip that puppy around and you get going in the right direction, right? Well, that's executive orders, and that's what they're going to have to do to change a few things to get us going in the right direction immediately.
Right.
But seriously,
I guess the goal would be in 4 years from now, when Trump is no longer president, that maybe we get a J.D. Vance that can continue on with his policies. So Trump has to win the hearts of enough constituents in America that we vote in someone that will continue on his policies.
Yep, and that's a big program for us coming up in the new year. I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But before we get there, we have a few things to discuss about the ongoing administration.
Yeah.
2 days ago, Biden pardoned his son Hunter of all charges and any other offenses he may have done within a 10-year period. He was given a full and unconditional pardon for the past 10 years. I don't think this is the normal way that pardons are supposed to work. I think a pardon is supposed to be for one conviction or one time, not for a decade. But I looked it up, and his actual pardon said from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024, some of the language in it said, including but not limited to all offenses charged or prosecuted by special counsel David C. Weiss, and then it gives the docket number and the district court and all of that. And there was 2 of those. Julene, I think you've done more legal work than I have, but this to me is a scary pardon. The attorneys I worked for used me to go over contracts and legal documents for lawsuits. My job was to look for the weasel words. That's where you could use a document for your benefit in challenging a case, or find words to break a contract. So words like maybe or if or when, those were weasel words because they could open the door to interpretation. All of that was vital to winning the case. So in this situation, the words I don't feel comfortable with is including but not limited to all offenses charged or prosecuted. So if it's not limited to offenses charged or prosecuted, are there others? It feels like it's mushy, like something is out there that we don't know about, or not limited to all offenses could mean something was going on that was about to be charged but hadn't hit yet. And so this pardon will cover it. What do you think, Julene?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Don't you think this raises the suspicion of all of us that Biden is maybe afraid of Trump coming into office and, doing his investigations and unearthing more crimes or things that are not right, right? So he's afraid. Right. Biden is afraid of what Trump might discover. So, a lot of the claims against Hunter Biden, the statute of limitation has expired. It's run its course. The claims that he received money from China or Ukraine, and it could have been some sympathetic Department of Justice people that were covering up for the Vice President Biden, and then the President Biden, so some of those charges, because the jurisdiction that the court would have over those claims has expired. But some more recent ones, Biden will say is the tax evasion or illegally having a gun. But apparently there are some other things that he is worried about. So I think I heard someplace that he just wanted to do the blanket pardon right now because there's still 6 weeks that they could kind of push something, discover something or push something through the court. And he doesn't want his son to be a convicted felon. So he's just going to pardon him right now so that anything that they might unearth before January 6th will remain hidden. And that's kind of disheartening, right?
It's very disheartening. I hadn't even thought about the statute of limitations and then something else being new. But by what you said, what I was wondering is if some bulldog person that is the really good researcher and is checking on this and doing detective work, what if 3 years from now someone finds that Hunter did take money illegally or did do something illegal that he wasn't charged for during that time? Now he can't be charged, right?
You're right, because his slate has been wiped clean. So they won't have any legal standing to go back and bring it forth because of this 10-year pardon.
That's just that is
When I
scary.
say, Deb, when I say 10-year pardon, it's going back 10 years. So anything
Yeah.
you might have done from yesterday until 10 years ago, you know.
Yeah, well, the reason I think that's scary is the word precedent, because in law, if someone does something and it stands, correct me if I'm wrong, Julene, because you were more into it than I was, but if a precedent stands, then a new judge can come in and say, well, because of that precedent, then we can do this. Am I right?
Well, I think, presidential pardons are a very unique privilege to one person, the president of the United States. So there are no statute of limitations on like egregious criminal activity, like murder and that kind of thing. But civil cases, I believe there are. You can only go back a certain amount of time, and then
Yeah.
the statute expires, and the claim
Yeah.
can't be brought before the court. And so, but when it comes to a presidential pardon, it pretty much says he can pardon anyone for anything, regardless of how far back it goes. The only thing the president can't pardon is an impeachment. So I believe that means he
Oh.
can't self-pardon himself from being impeached, or
Okay.
if a former president has been impeached, he can't pardon the impeachment. That's the only thing. So that is a big old blanket
Yeah, it is. Do you think it's good that it's that way? Do you?
Well, I haven't really gone back and studied what the founding fathers were thinking when they put in pardons, because I believe pardons have always been acceptable in government. Kings had the ability to pardon. So maybe it's just something that they've always had known. I got to think that kings and presidents of the past abused the pardon power. So that would have probably been a red flag to the founders.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be interesting to go back and study. You've caused me to want to go back to some of my constitutional books and study exactly why they made it so broad. That power is so broad, because it does open up the door to abuse, right?
It does, but then also the abuse could be if a president knows something private about someone who's been charged or who is headed for jail time or whatever, and they know something important but can't share it with the public. I could see where that would be a good thing. But then, yeah, you're right. It can be abused too. So,
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have to learn more about pardons later.
Well,
Let's get on to the lie in this. I don't like that Biden and how do you say her name? Jean-Pierre? Is that how you say it?
that's her last name. Her first name is it Karina? The
Karina. Okay, that's right.
press secretary for
Right. I
Yeah.
don't like that it felt like to me they were screaming, even though they were nice, they were very adamant about being truthful people. And then once they would say something, they would work to lie to the American people. In his pardon document, Biden said, quote, "For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle: just tell the American people the truth." But he didn't tell the truth. For the last year, he's told the American people that the Hunter decision was made. He would not pardon his son. And I felt like all along that he was against it because he thought it would make the Democrats look better and give them more high ground. And maybe that would get them more votes. So they weren't being political. People would think they weren't being political about charging Trump because Hunter was charged. And Biden was going to accept the charges against Hunter. But apparently, when Trump won, Hunter was saved.
Yeah.
Now they could claim that the system was broken and Daddy had to pardon him, because that's what it says in the pardon. The system is broken and I had to step in and pardon my son. Doesn't sound right what happened to telling the truth?
Doesn't it seem so disingenuous when they were so clearly adamant saying that, no, the president wouldn't pardon his son. And the president said, no, I wouldn't pardon my son. But now they're switching strategies a little bit. And it seems like to me, they're blaming, the evilness of Trump, like Trump, the Nazi, we've been using those kind of terms.
Yeah.
So if you can demonize, President Trump, it will, I think it somehow justifies them flip-flopping and excusing the laws that were broken by Hunter and the lies even that because now they flip-flopped, so you can say it was a lie. Maybe they always intended on pardoning him if they lost. But I think that's what happens, Deb, when you are not grounded on principle, right? When you're lacking like that moral core, that when you're caught something wrong, instead of confessing and saying, yeah, you're right, I'm gonna take my penance and and deal with it, you go into that victim role. So you go into the blame game that look, and this is what we're hearing with President Biden. Hunter could never get a fair shake or a trial from that evil Trump, and he had an addiction and so I just whatever his rationalization was, that because my boy has been in the limelight, he'll never be treated fairly by the other side. So I'm just gonna I know him well enough. He's a completely changed man, and so it's Deb. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was talking to my husband about this last night, and he said, if you were the president, Jolene, and our child did something wrong, maybe it wasn't murder or something egregious, but he broke some laws, and he's changed now.
Yeah.
He's come through hell and beyond, and he's a better boy. Would you pardon him? And I said, yeah, I would. And Al said, what do you think I would do, Jolene? And I said, you wouldn't pardon him because you don't want to deny God the opportunity for him to learn and grow by living out the consequences of his actions. And I smiled and I said, that's why I love you, babe. But my husband is a godly man, and he believes in taking accountability and responsibility when you do things wrong, because there's great growth in going through that process, right? Instead of just getting an easy out or covering up or cutting corners or having mommy and daddy come in and save you. And so it's a hard thing,
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
but
I just think Biden, at the end of the day, he is a father, and this is his son who's had some real heartache and trials and addictions and gotten in a lot of trouble. But, also at the end of the day, he's the president of the United States, and he sets the example, for the moral code of conduct by which this nation follows. And that's
exactly. And you have made some great points. In fact, you changed my mind on how to feel about this, or at least why I feel like I do. You gave us the stipulations and considerations and rules for presidential pardons. And while you was doing it, I kept thinking, well, is there anything in the law that says you can only do it for humans and not turkeys? Because they pardon a turkey on Thanksgiving, right? Anyway, seriously, what you have brought up is very good, because you made me rethink why this is bothering so many people. It's not maybe that he pardoned a family member. It's that they don't feel like Hunter has learned anything. He's not growing. He's not reformed. Maybe he's not doing drugs, but is he still selling his dad, or is something going on behind the scenes? We don't trust him.
Yeah.
And I was thinking while you were talking, didn't Bush pardon a cousin or a brother what was his name? Billy Bob something. I don't know. He was a drinker, and
that was Clinton. I mean, look,
that was Clinton. Okay.
All presidents have had relatives that they're just like, oh dear Lord, let's just pardon him and not embarrass the whole family, and be done with it. But I think what Hunter has been accused of, some of these claims are pretty egregious. It's not just drunk driving, or something like that. I mean, look, as I look back at all the presidents, Bush had 75 pardons, like on the last day, January 19th, or leading up to the last few days. Clinton had 100, gave 140 pardons, and Obama had the most pardons, 212. And
Oh my.
and I'm not even
Wow.
talking about they can grant clemency or they can commute sentences. I'm
Yeah.
not even including those. I'm just doing actual
Yeah.
pardons. So they've all pardoned, but this just seems, maybe it's just because he was so adamant, President Biden, about not pardoning his son, and then do, it just
Yeah.
feels like he's
I know. I get that.
taking
I
us
get
for
that. And
fools.
what you said about how Al would feel, that, the fact that we don't feel like he's really changed or whatever, but then it also goes to the lies in this administration, the money that has been spent or taken in that was connected with some of the stuff that he's done or possibly done or allegedly done, however you want to say it. And then we start thinking about all the other lies that have been out there. It's been widely accepted that it was a lie that President Biden was doing well and going strong and completely engaged in the government and outworking everybody. I think everyone, seeing how he's reacting now, believes that that's probably not true. And now to know that he was so adamant about pardoning his son, and yet about not pardoning his son, and yet he did. What does that lie do to the American people? That's what I'm wondering. So some people I know want to say that everyone in politics is just a liar and can't be trusted. And I just can't go there, Julene.
Yeah.
I still believe there are some good people, but we have to demand that our leaders are better than we are. We have to see us as a good country, and they must want to be honest and wise and do what's best for everyone. We are not garbage. We are not crazy. We're not ill-informed. I do know one thing, and it's what we talk about here. The American people do not like to be lied to.
Yeah.
And a lot of our presidents have done that. We can think of a few. You probably could. We were talking about Clinton and some of the others. And what do you think, Julene?
Well, look, I mean, I wish I could say I've never lied, but I think I probably have, I mean, hopefully it's not at the level of some people, but I have lied. But I think the thing that we can all accept that maybe we have said things to cover our own behind or not to hurt feelings or whatever that is. But ultimately, I think, and this is why, those beautiful 5,000-year leaps, those principles of liberty, which this nation was founded, it says that, in order for this free people, this free form of government to exist, people must stay morally strong and virtuous. And that means being honest and integritous. And as they do that, they will want to elect those kind of leaders, righteous, morally strong leaders that are tied into God's law, the 10 commandments, to not steal or to cheat or to bear false witness, or to lie. And so we're all human. We all are going to do some of those things to a bigger or lesser degree. But, it doesn't feel good when, you look to God for approval and you're lying. I mean, there's something within you that kind of writes that course or that tendency. And so, no one is going to be perfect, but when you are aligned with God, you want to self-correct. You want to self-govern yourself. You don't want to do as much bad as you can because no one is watching you and you can get away with it. Having integrity is making the right choices when no one is watching. Okay. And so those are the kind of leaders that we have the responsibility to vet, to be prayerful about, and to elect, knowing that, everyone has had misdeeds in their past, but if they're trying to continually right the ship and adhere their life to God's laws, he's he is going to be merciful upon us, and then that leader is is going to be able to be led by forces that only he and his creator are aware of.
And that's exactly what we need. And you are exactly right, as always. There's never been a perfect citizen or a perfect public servant.
Yeah.
We don't elect pastors. We don't elect Jesus. We're just human people trying to do our best. Nixon didn't tell the truth. Clinton didn't tell the truth. In fact, he didn't know the definition of the word is. But I don't want to expect our leaders to lie. It's one thing to accept that maybe they're not perfect. It's another thing when you expect them to lie. That's a terrible way to live. And I don't want to believe that our country is bad. I want to believe our country is good, that our people are good, and that we can continue on this journey in this people's republic.
Right.
Hope is priceless. Wouldn't you agree, Julene?
Absolutely.
Hope, love, and gratitude will help you begin to build a better life. When I was writing the book, Praying for America and the Army of God, I posted this statement online, and we'll see if you agree with it. Government cannot change people. Political rhetoric will not change attitudes. Marketing ideas will not grow better men. America's problems are rooted in hearts. When people change their heart, all social problems will decrease. When hearts are evil, hurting, sad, depressed, selfish, controlling, dysfunctional, or intentionally cruel, the only solution is the transformation found in a life dedicated to a higher purpose, to God. Only a belief in that higher purpose, only a belief in Jesus Christ, and only a changed heart will revitalize America. Do you agree, Julene?
Oh, that is powerful. I mean, you have spoken truth, that studying and emulating the life of our Creator will transform and change our behavior way more than just talking about the behavior, or talking about the medication you can get to change the tendency, or the counselor you can go to. When you align yourself with a master healer, that can kill and course correct and change a heart and transform you from the inside out, and all those other things try and change you from the outside in, and it doesn't work that way. It has to be an internal shifting and transformation, and that comes from following the master of the universe, Jesus Christ, who I haven't even said, Deb, you look so cute in your Christmas red with the Christmas tree and the little book and all the symbols of this beautiful Christmas season where we can really more freely speak of this Christ child and the miracle of that wee little babe. And so that is ultimately, Deb, don't we always come back to
we do. And I think that's why this country has lasted as long as it has. It was created by men who may have been flawed, but they had that inner desire for that higher power and to do the right thing. And I think it made a difference in how they created our democracy and our government and what they wanted for us. And that's why we've lasted so long. Don't you agree?
Oh, I mean, we haven't really even gotten into it, but if you just look at our early founding fathers, George Washington, when some say it's a folk tale that he tried to lie about cutting down the cherry tree when he was 6 years old. And then he said, "That, Papa, I can't tell a lie." I mean, whether he said it or not, it makes a lot of sense. He would say something like that just because of, anyone that studies his character knows he was an integritous, honest man. And Benjamin Franklin, goodness sakes, he wrote a little book on virtues. He lived by these 13 virtues of what it was, sincerity and justice.
Yeah.
Apparently honesty is woven in. And even Thomas Jefferson, I mean, we could get into the lies that were told about him and how he stayed the course and was true to his character, because he said, look, if I try to refute them, my enemies wouldn't believe me. And the people that know me know I would never do those kind of things. So their character, their reputation, I think are part of the reason why our country did so well in those first 100 years or so, because they were men of such a moral core and high virtue, and it shows, and we really have them to thank.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Well, we're running a little bit over time, but we have to get in our tip for today. I think those are important. I've had several people tell me how much they take the tip and try to live it through the day. So, Julene, what is your tip for today?
Well, I heard someone once say, you cannot live straight, or you can't walk straight if you live a crooked life. And so we're seeing some crooked behavior. And it's hard to, be held up as a standard or an example or a leader when you're living crooked. You can't walk straight if you're living crooked. And so we got to align our values with God. And so if temptation knocks, if your values are clear and grounded in truth, your decisions will always be easy. You won't have to live in fear of being exposed or getting caught. If your values are clear, decisions will always be easy.
That's great. I love that tip. All right. My tip is to know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And the way to know the truth is to figure out who loves you, baby. That saying came from a 70s TV show, but it will help you discern how to tell a good person from a bad one. Evaluate that person's actions by determining who will be hurt by those actions and who will be supported or loved by those actions. I kind of relate it to the fact that God is my friend, because I know he works for my good and to help me have a great life. And sometimes he puts me through things that I have to suffer through because I'm in a learning mode, right? But he's there when everyone else walks away. And he gave his only son just for me. My husband can be trusted because he treats me like God does. And I can trust Julene for those same reasons. So today, I hope our listeners, while they're looking at the political system, it doesn't always create a pretty picture. But if you can find those special people around you who simply want to serve people, they probably won't let you down. So trust the people who love you, baby.
I do. I love you, Deb. I'm trusting you, girl. I'm
trusting you. Well, everyone, thank you for being with us today. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again when we discuss fresh topics. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic by writing me, Debbie, at debbiejansen.com. And again, thank you to our producer, Ken Jansen. This is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Julene Jackson, and we hope that you will keep sticking to the truth. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.